We're on. All right, cool. So hello again, everybody, and welcome to our panel on fieldwork and internships. My name is Andy, and I'm a member of the PASA Network.
My name is Michelle. I'm also a member of PASA Network.
And so today we're going to be giving you a little bit of a rundown on what fieldwork and what internships are like. We know that a lot of you have many questions about it, and so we have here a panel of lovely PASA students, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a rundown on how it's going to work. So before we begin, let's go ahead and go down to our panelists. If you all just say your name and where you did your fieldwork.
Okay, so my name is Jane Devenport. I am a student, and I did my internship in Kuwait at the American University of Kuwait, which I used my internship as fieldwork.
I'm Steve Kim. I am a third year as well. I did it at 4 places: APASS, School of Social Work, the VSC Office, Office of Accreditation Evaluation, and currently with the USC Career Center.
My name's Behpoornia. I'm a second-year PASA student, and I did my internship at University of Southern Indiana.
We have a fourth panelist joining us in a few minutes. Her name is Jessa, and so we'll let her explain her experience as well. So we'll go ahead and get started with our first question. So the way it's going to work is we have a few questions already drafted, and then toward the end of the panel, we'll open it to you all so you can ask your own questions that you may have. Toward the end, if you have any specific questions for any of these individuals, feel free to go up afterward, and they'll be happy to answer these questions for you. So a little bit more about how you got your assistantship, or fieldwork position, your fieldwork position, how you kind of started that process.
Okay, so I actually had seen a notice go out. I think Tracy had sent out a notice about this internship, and I didn't know that it was going to be my fieldwork. I didn't know that I was even going to get it. So I think in October we had a notice sent to us via email, and American University of Kuwait, if anyone's interested. And I just applied. So I applied, I did a Skype interview, and then I didn't get it. I actually didn't get the position. And then a month before the person was supposed to go out there, they had a visa issue, and I was contacted, and then I actually got to go. So I kind of quit my job and took the internship. So it was a little bit different, but I'm happy I took it.
The very non-traditional, I guess that's the term. I didn't apply for anything. One of my first ones was at the Office of Accreditation Evaluation. There was a survey that was given to all PASA students at the first year, the orientation. I don't know if you had that survey given, but when I took that survey, I was offended by the questions, so I didn't answer it. And then I took the survey, and then I found the person who was moderating. I was like, "Did you do the survey?" They're like, "Yeah, we did." And then that turned into a fieldwork opportunity. And it was one of the most interesting things to be a part of. Same with the APASS experience. I didn't apply for anything as well. I just during my orientation time, I introduced myself to the assistant director, who is the assistant director now. And then I just said, "Hey, can I volunteer?" And so the volunteer experience became a fieldwork experience. So I have a very unusual story of all of my fieldwork experiences, and I'm pretty sure it's different from others here, but I'll get into some other details later, good and bad, from my experiences. Yeah.
So I did the ACUHO-I, and I heard about it because someone who I was working with had done it the year before, and I actually came to this panel, and I heard about it. So coming full circle now. Sorry. It's okay. You're good. And so the application process for ACUHO-I is already out, but I have notes, so that's why I'm looking at my phone as to like what I did first. So the application opened up October 15th, so it's open now. And what you do is you post your resume online, and there's different schools that have their position descriptions for what they are looking for on this. It's like hundreds of jobs on ACUHO-I. Mostly res ed, but there's other ones for like orientation and student government and campus activities as well. And so what I did was I just posted my resume online, and then at the certain point, you were able to go in and see what the hosts had posted for position descriptions, and you were able to put mark on your bucket list what positions you were interested in. So I would click on, for example, University of San Diego, and these are all across America, by the way. And read the position description that they had, and if I was interested, I could mark them, and they would go into like my little bucket list of interest. And they would see if I marked them that I was interested. When you do the application, not only the resume is the main part, but the other parts they ask you are like your dates that you're available. Since my assistantship right now at USC is in residential education, I had really difficult dates to work with because I had to be back in the summer to work or to have training. And so my flexibility was not as wide as everyone else's or other people's, since I had to be back. So I didn't have as many opportunities to look into as others. But yeah, so you do that, and then you mark what schools you're interested in, and then at some point the hosts are able to reach out to you, and if you're interested, then you sign up for an interview, and then your interviews occur, and then in March the positions are offered to you, and you get to select which one you want out of those. Right now we're just answering like how we applied and found out about it, right? Yeah, and I'll get into the rest later. That's all online.
So do you mind introducing yourself and where you did your field work, and then
in the process of finding that position?
Sure. I'm Jessa, Forsythe-Crane, part year second time. Part-time second year student. I'm a little frazzled because I just came from work, and I did my field work at the school where I work, which is Alliant International University in Alhambra, California. It's got 6 campuses statewide and then several international campuses as well. I work in academic affairs there, and so I knew that when I knew that fieldwork was coming up, I asked around because I'm so sorry. If you're employed at an institution of higher education, you're allowed to do 1 of your 3 units of fieldwork at that institution, but it has to be very different from what your day-to-day job is, and ideally you have a completely different supervisor. So I'm on relatively decent terms with many different faculty members and offices on campus, so I started brainstorming with my direct supervisor, who's the clinical psychology PsyD program director, who she thought might benefit from my intern hours, and also how could Alliant most benefit from it, because that's 70 hours of free labor that the school's getting out of me. So we brainstormed some ideas. She asked, we talked about the areas that I was interested in, what did I want to expand in. Our conversation definitely kept in mind the idea that it would have to be very, very different from what I do on a daily basis, which is sort of managing an academic program. So in the hallway, I ran into Dr. Ron Duran, who is Alliant's Associate Provost for Research and Scholarship. And when I saw him, I thought, oh, I want to do fieldwork with Ron. And I said, hey, Dr. Duran, I have to do 70 hours of fieldwork this summer. How would you feel about having me intern at the Office of Research and Scholarship as the system-wide office? And he was like, oh, wow, can you start before the summer? But I couldn't. But I did. And that was pretty much, I cleared it with my supervisor. I cleared it with all the folks. And something else that I had to do in order to make sure that my duties were really, really separated, I rearranged my schedule so that I would be at work Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I would be at internship or fieldwork on Tuesday, Thursday. So operations set up a separate office for me with a separate phone so that I could still be on campus, but not in my office, so that not only I wouldn't be tempted to do regular work stuff, but students couldn't find me and faculty couldn't find me. So it was very separate.
All right, great, thank you. So our next question is, if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about exactly what you did at your fieldwork sites in terms of administrative tasks or things for your own professional development, as well as some of the things that you really enjoyed about your fieldwork. Okay,
so it was nice because the program that I was involved with had been, I think it was in the 6th year or something like that. So they had an idea that they wanted us to work on a project so that we could have, something that we could complete in the period that we were there. So we were there for 8 weeks. So I had 2 placements, so I had kind of a diversity of experiences. So I worked in alumni affairs and I also worked in student life, which were very different offices. And so I had a project which was to update a database, which was not completely really fun to work on updating a database. But prior to me being there, they had been using a spreadsheet to track all of their alumni. So this spreadsheet turned into me entering all of the alumni into a database, which was kind of boring, but there were other things, other activities that I got involved with. It was the graduation. It was also a 10-year celebration. It was also staff and faculty awards. So there were a lot of events. And then we were also, I was getting to learn about the culture, which was really great because I was in a different environment. But I also think that if you go to any other institution, office culture, that's going to be different than wherever you're working. So I would say that it's probably important to kind of get an experience outside of USC if you could possibly do that. But I also forgot that I did do 1 fieldwork credit in my own office because I was working full-time before just this last summer. And I had to come up with a project, present it to somebody, and make sure that it wasn't kind of, it wouldn't be something that I would do in my regular work, which was interesting. But if you do work full-time, you have to be creative and you have to figure out who your resources are when you're working. I guess I was working directly with faculty, so I had to work with a faculty member that worked with students. So I kind of figured out an avenue to do that. But project-wise, it was nice for my fieldwork placement because they already had projects they wanted me to work on. You may get into a fieldwork placement where you're the one that's being creative. They may have a small idea of something, but if you want to get experience in a certain way and get experience in a certain field, you need to take the initiative to get that experience and be proactive about it. Because there's a lot of times where they're like, okay, well, you can staple papers and you can do this. You need to be like, no, actually, I need some professional development. So, yeah.
Very similar experience for me as well. All of the fieldwork placements that I've gone to, or the supervisors that I've worked with, I've asked that one question: what's something that you've always wanted to do but couldn't get to it? Can I do that? And in terms of enjoyable work, it's not, the work in itself wasn't enjoyable for me. We didn't work with students. It wasn't like a student development type of experience. It was more of working with information, data assessment, reports. But it was the things that they really just wanted to do but couldn't get to it, and they would love me for doing it because I got the ball rolling, or whatever it was, the project that I got to start. But what was enjoyable was the connections that I made with the departments. I think fieldwork is a great opportunity to get a taste of that experience of what that field is, but also build contacts, that Trojan network. This really is one of those times to do it. I can get into that a little bit later, I guess. They put us into these boxes with these questions, so we can't go on tangents.
I went on a tangent. You can do it.
I'm trying to tailor my responses. I think that's it for me.
So in terms of my position description at University of Southern Indiana, it was the first year that they were merging summer resident assistants and summer conference assistants into one position called, oh my goodness, SSA, so summer service staff assistants. And so it was like a really great experience to be able to help them create the new position description for what these students would be doing. And so I oversaw them in their conference area, which were in the res hall. So we had like cheer camp and church camp and all these things, their check-ins, their check-outs, maintenance requests from work orders and things of that sort for the conference assistant portion, and then the resident assistant portion, programming for the summer school students and doing their duty rounds. They were on call. We had staff meetings. So making that position mold well together. So if they were on duty one night, I didn't put the conferences, and it actually worked out really well merging those, because from what I had heard the year before when they were separate positions, they really didn't have much to do with just conference assistants or just RAs. So it was a really wise move on the institution to make it one, so that they could pay them more and give them more work to do over the summer. So it was really an enlightening experience being a part of creating a new job description for students on their campus. Outside of just my actual legitimate job description, what I gained from going to a different state and doing ACUHO-I was a few things. One, when I was choosing my placement or choosing what graduate program to go to, funny, Indiana University was like the one that I was about to go to, but I really, I couldn't, because I couldn't separate myself from my family. I'm from California, I'm from Los Angeles, and I just, overall, I ended up choosing USC because I have mentors on this campus. But there was always this thought in my head as to what would have happened if I had gone to Indiana. Well, now that I went there for my internship, I was very happy that I chose USC, because Indiana is very difficult to live in for me. So that really sealed the deal for me. I was like, no more thoughts of what if I had gone to IU. So that, and then also I realized, I work in a res ed department here at the private school, really prestigious, and then going to IU, I didn't go there, USI, I learned about, the public school system, fairly new school. They were only 49 years old. I learned a lot about that. Also, the people I worked with, the department I worked in, was really wonderful. They really asked me what I wanted to get out of the position. So I wanted more work, and so I joined committees for their housing and residential life. So I joined their RA training committee, their appreciation committee. Whatever I wanted to get out of the position, they helped craft a way for me to get involved in that way. So it was really great. I was able to do a lot more than just my position description, because they were really interested in what I wanted to gain from it. So they were really wonderful, and I was glad that I did that and then came back to LA.
I'm not sure how many of you share this with me. In coming to PASA, I am less interested in the student affairs portion and much more interested in the administration portion, because that's so applicable to what I do now, and that's the area that I want to stay in. So what I did with my field work, over the summer actually helped me sort of solidify I have a better idea now of where I want to go in the future, which is really great. But I knew that I wanted to do something related to research and assessment, which is why I asked Dr. Duran if I could work with him. And initially I wanted to do assessments of our academic affairs and student affairs departments, which are only 2 years old. But in my initial conversation with Dr. Duran, who is my supervisor, before the summer even started, when we were just sort of talking about what the direction of the summer would be, he mentioned that the IRB process in particular was very confusing, and our application was confusing. And for anyone who doesn't know, IRB stands for Institutional Review Board. Every university or educational higher education institution has one. If you're doing research, faculty who are going to do research studies have to have IRB approval if the study involves human participants, and any students who are doing research for their dissertations or publications also have to get IRB approval. So Dr. Duran mentioned that he would like me to focus on IRB, so I thought, great, I'll do some assessments about IRB. I'll develop some surveys and see what the student experience has been like and see what the faculty experience was like. But with our first meeting, I found out that Alliant is actually getting an IRB vendor in December, so the whole process is going to be streamlined by our outside IRB vendor, which I didn't even know existed. So it no longer made sense for me to do assessments and develop educational materials, since pretty soon we were going to have a company do that for us. So for the first couple of weeks, we actually didn't do that much. I helped out with some IT stuff. Dr. Duran was conducting a nationwide search for an associate provost for our multicultural diversity initiative. So I would set up the conferences and conference everyone in and do the webcam and type in everyone's questions. But then after that was done, Dr. Duran got right into writing a grant. So I had to be really, really self-starting in thinking about what I wanted to do around IRB, because he was still interested in having me do that. Even though he was writing a grant and he wouldn't come to campus, he would call me every Tuesday, Thursday that we were doing internship, and we would have these long, long conversations about, we would always start out like, so how are you narrowing what you want to do? How is this going to expand your skills? And somehow it would get into his experience with grant writing and first-generation retention and institutional problems with student conflict resolution. So I actually learned a lot about the internal workings of the school, a lot about the higher administration of the school, and a lot about the directions that the different sort of strata of administration wanted to take the university, which I found really, really interesting. Not necessarily helpful, because as a low-level staffer, I can't do anything personally yet. But then the bulk of my summer was spent on developing this project related to IRB, which is that if you ever want to do research that involves human participants, you're required to go through some kind of protection of human research participants training. There are lots of different free ones online. If you have taken research methods, or if you haven't taken it yet, when you do take it, you'll go through the city training, which is through the University of Florida, and you'll learn all about the history and the protections and what sort of proposals are exempt from IRB review, what get an expedited review, just sort of like online modules. One of the better known trainings of this is offered through the National Institutes of Health Office of Extramural Research. So they have a free online protection of human research participants training, and what was really interesting to Dr. Duran and I was that they had an announcement on their webpage that said, a fantastic partnership between the Office of Extramural Research and Virginia Commonwealth University and the American Medical Association has resulted in our ability to offer American Medical Association continuing education credits for medical professionals who complete the training through signing up through this particular link. So even though it's free for everyone else, if you're a medical professional, if you're licensed or whatever, you have to complete continuing education credits to maintain your licensure or your registration. You sign up through this particular link, you pay $25, you do this training that's really important for you to have anyway if you're involved with research with humans, and you get to count that towards your required CE credits for renewing your license. And Dr. Duran and I thought, wouldn't it be great if we could get that for psychologists? Which is what Alliant specializes in, is doctoral degrees for psychologists, clinical psychology. So, sorry, I know I'm taking a long time, but it's so complicated. So the idea was, let's get that for psychologists. And then Dr. Duran went off and wrote the grant. So I had to figure out the process of, okay, well, I know that the AMA did it, so what do I have to do to make this happen for us? And that's why I thought the self-starting comment was really important. Like, you do often have to take initiative and be proactive to sort of, like, even if you have a project and it seems daunting, you've just got to figure out the little steps that are required to get yourself going. So first, I figured out what steps I wanted to take. I drafted a proposal and submitted it to Alliant's Continuing Education Office, which was like a 32-page document with like a mock syllabus and course descriptions, and the application asks you to develop like marketing paragraphs for, you know, marketing it to different audiences, current students and faculty at Alliant, alumni, outside professionals. And then once that was approved, I revised the proposal and submitted it to the Office of Extramural Research. Yeah. And what was really exciting was that I got an email. I explained, you know, we would like to do this with a partnership with a, similar to the AMA Virginia Commonwealth University thing, Alliant would like to partner with American Psychological Association and NIH in offering this to psychologists. And there were some questions back and forth with the office, and then I was told that they would put it on their agenda for their August meeting, and they discussed it, and they said, you know, we've gotten a lot of applications from different types of professions about this, but we're really interested in doing this with psychologists. Like, your proposal sounds really interesting. So they initially approved it, and they're figuring out how to do it. And we're actually supposed to talk in a couple of weeks. So my field work continues past summer.
Thanks so much for sharing. What kind of challenges have you experienced in your field work, whether it's before, during, or after, or what did you wish you would have known prior to going into your field work?
So I had a month's notice that I was going to be leaving to go to Kuwait. So I didn't have as much time to do the research. I think that it's important to do research before you go into that office and have a background and understand. I mean, you can definitely learn as you go and figure out what you want. But like I was saying, if you want to be intentional about what you're going to get out of your field work, you should have kind of a background before you step into your position. What was difficult? I don't know. I don't know that anything was really horribly difficult. It was a change in my lifestyle, going from working to a fieldwork position and then maybe not having a job. Transitioning is difficult. And then making time for fieldwork when I was working full-time was a little bit difficult because that's on top of a 40-hour work week and 2 classes that I was taking in the PASA program. So I think finding time and then being intentional, I think, are 2 things that you need to really work on. Fieldwork, though, it's what you make of it. And a lot of times you think of it as a burden. Actually, I thought of it as a burden. And I think that when I realized that if you can make yourself, if you're going into a field, you want to have as many diverse experiences as possible. So I think that what Steve did in breaking up his fieldwork and working in several offices was a great idea. Also, if you're an employee, you get 4 units covered if you work at USC. So taking 1 class and 1 fieldwork unit is covered completely. So you wouldn't be paying for that. So that's another idea if you are working full-time. So,
So that was something that I can piggyback off of that. I was a full-time student that went part-time due to unemployment a year and a half ago at the School of Social Work. Long story short, that didn't work out. But one of the most difficult things about fieldwork was before I was fully employed full-time. I was just one of those super overachievers, or so I thought. You have your school schedule, then you have your assistantship, then I was doing my field work, and then I was doing like a volunteer work or 2 because I didn't care about getting paid. I just wanted to build my resume. That was my #1 thing. get the job as soon as possible. The most difficult thing was self-diagnosed depression. I was just like, man, this is really sad. No time, no work-life balance or work and play balance. You go to school early. I'm also a commuter student from OC, so it takes me about an hour and a half on a good day through traffic, hour and a half. And so I would leave early in the morning. You go through your entire 12 hours of stuff, and then you can't leave during rush hour, so you wait. And then you start leaving at like 9 or 10 p.m., and it's really depressing. And
Sorry.
it's a really sad time for me. But, you know, I thought, like, you know what, just suck it up. It's only for a year or two at most, and go through it. So that was the most difficult thing. Something that I wish, so I guess my sort of, you guys are all first years entering fieldwork next semester, right?
Not all of them.
Summer, fall.
Okay.
Some second years.
Some second years, okay. So time management, work-life balance, that's definitely a heads up. But I'm also kind of like, since I went through it, you guys can totally do it too. This is a time to build your resume, and that's one thing I really wish I had known. It's, I think, a great place to start looking for fieldwork is actually look at a job posting that you want. So like, who knows, like out of this group, like who knows what they want to do right when they graduate, like your first job or your second job. Like, you know what you're gonna do. You know what? Okay. But the ones that the ones that are convinced that that job is the one that you're gonna pursue, look at the job description, and if you don't have those qualifications, find it at USC somehow. Because I'm in the job search right now, and you know, you look at a position, you're like, dang, I can't do this. So you go to the next one, you're like, oh, okay, I think I can do this. And then you get to the interview, and you're like, please tell me about this competency. And you're like, you kind of BS an answer. You know, you kind of get where I'm going. So being intentional about the time you used, about the skills you want to develop, so you can clearly write it on your resume. And when they ask you that question, can you do this? You say, yes. This is the experience that I had in my fieldwork, and this is the job for me. I'm a good fit for this position. So think about that. Don't only think about your first employment, but also your second employment, the next lateral movement or a forward movement. Some of the things that they might have, which is supervisory experience. That's also a good thing. Transferable skills, customer service skills, those are all transferable. So make sure you have those things under your belt. And I know we're all tense. It's a job search is always a tense thing. We're all kind of friends, but we're also like competition. So yes. Since I'm in this state right now, like I want to encourage you guys, like just slowly but surely build your resume through fieldwork experiences.
That was really good advice. I wrote it down.
Oh.
For me, some of the difficulties of my internship, I touched upon one of them earlier. When you submit your application for ACUHO-I, you have to put the dates of your availability, and my dates were not very flexible. A lot of the internships need you from like early May to late August, and I had late May, early July. And so, because, you know, my contract for Res Ed at USC ended like May 18th, no, after that, and then I had to be back July 19th for training. So the difficulty for me was I didn't have a wide scope of schools that wanted to interview me and offered the position to me for me to choose from. But I still got USI, which I was happy about. And then when I got there, the difficulties were, well, it was my first time like moving away for more than, actually it was my first time moving away. And so I was away for about like 2 months, and I was in a completely different area of the country that I didn't have any family in. I didn't have a car. I didn't know any other people at the institution. So it was just like completely new experience for me, but I was really lucky. I had a really great RA staff who was like, did you get dinner? Let me drive you and get you dinner. Do you have groceries? Let me drive you to go get groceries. My supervisors were really helpful with that, but it's still different, you know, because you go back to your apartment and you're like, okay, no one to go out with tonight. Also, nightlife in Indiana is terrible. It really is. Like, they had...
What city were you in?
Evansville. Yeah, you've never heard of it, right? Yeah, neither had I. They're club. Yeah, never going there. But yeah, also, let's see. I don't cook very well. I've been in res ed for a long time, so I get my food for free, so I had to learn how to, you know, steam vegetables and stuff. I'm a vegetarian. Let's see. You know, those small difficulties that you don't really like think about until you've actually moved away, and you're like, yes, these things exist. And then, well, a lot of you may not be from here, so some of you may have already moved away, and you're like, oh, I know how to do all that. And another difficulty was, I got bit by a tick at the end, so I had a disease. Yeah, I went to the hospital for a little bit. No, it was Rocky Mountain spotted fever. You can only get it in that region of the country, don't worry. So yeah, you know, being in the hospital away from your family was a little difficult as well. But yeah, what I wish I had known before I went there was they took me to a conference near the end. It was like their student affairs at the institution, and I met so many people, like the dean and like the VPSA and like all these things, and I wish I had met them or I'd known to meet them when I first had gotten there, so I could do informational interviews or like, you know, just be introduced to them. I hadn't until like literally the last week I was there, and I was like, bummer, you know, I wish I had taken advantage of meeting with different people. Immediately when I got there, I did go to the multicultural office and the program board office and ask them about their events and things because I wanted to attend them, and over the summer they just completely shut down and had no events, so I was like, oh, can't take advantage of that. But like, I wish I had known to take advantage of and have informational interviews with other people on campus. So that's a word of advice I give you for if you go work at a different institution, to make sure you do that. Yeah.
Challenges were, for me, my challenges were mostly related to my own self-monitoring, keeping myself on track when my supervisor was not around or not in contact. And also, of course, naturally separating work from field work. Even though I had a separate office, it was still incredibly, like, I would still go to my regular office and do a little bit of work sometimes because I was there. And so I wish I had known how hard that would be, I guess, and maybe in the future if I have to do something, if I have to repeat that type of thing, you know, I'd maybe think twice about having my fieldwork office in the same place as my regular office. And also, I wish I had known how important it was. Is everything okay?
Sorry.
Technical problems. That's cool. I'll just keep on. I wish I had known. Well, I found it really. I wasn't able to do this well, and I wish I had been able to keep a narrow scope. It's true that you want to gain a lot of skills to flesh out your resume. However, depending on where you're at, it might be best, like it would have been best for me, and so it might be best for you to really consider, like, develop a few concrete goals that you want to hit during your time in field work, and then periodically check in with both your supervisor and yourself about how realistic those goals are and what work you're doing towards them. If the office is big and you've got a lot of stuff going on, making sure that you've got sort of a checklist of what you definitely want to accomplish for yourself can be really helpful. Do we get to have closing remarks at the very end? Because I forgot to say something, but I can say it at the end.
We can do that after our audience.
Great.
All right, Thank you so much. So actually, we're going to move on to audience questions now. I know that many of you have questions about, whether or not you can have it be paid or not paid, like things about the class itself, because there is a class that has to go field work. So we're going to open it up to any audience questions. So go ahead and just raise your hands and we'll call on you. And then you can direct it to all or some of the panelists, whichever you choose. Yes.
Is it allowed to do all 3 units at USC? Is there any restrictions against that?
No, there's no restriction.
Okay.
Yeah, you can do them here.
Yeah.
You can do all 3 at one place.
Okay.
Sally, I know that you had a really strict time restriction for ACUHO-I. Were there other opportunities, or was it pretty much just like ISU or nothing? Were there other places that would have accepted you with that time frame, or was it just how you?
Yeah. Interesting. When I went to India State, no, that's not where I went. USI, you just threw me off. I was like, that's not where I went. When I went to USI, their grad was coming to California to do his ACUHO-I. So I got to meet him for a really quick moment. So just to tell you how people may have had different experiences. For me, I got interviews from only 5 schools and was offered 3 of them. So I had 3 to choose from. I picked USI mostly because 1, they told me I can craft the position into what I want it to be, and 2, because they paid the best. Yeah, and then the grad at USI, he didn't have date restrictions. He had 26 interviews, and he had about 9 offerings. And so he picked that one because he wanted to come to California, not because it paid the best or anything. So just to give you 2 examples of someone who did have date restrictions and who didn't, and what that difference may have looked like. So yeah, I had 2 other schools to choose from. Good question.
Do you have to take the class more than once, or do you just take it the one time and then do the rest of it?
You have to take it more than once.
I've
Each
taken
time
it
you
twice.
take a unit, you have to take the class.
Okay.
But you only meet twice, right?
Over the summer.
3
Yeah.
or 4. 4.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm part-time, so I'm only doing fieldwork in the summer. I only had to do the class twice.
So this is kind of a follow-up with that. With 2, if you were doing 2 units of fieldwork on the same semester, would that mean more hours in the classroom, or is it the same amount?
Same amount. I did
Okay.
all 3 units over the summer, and I took the same amount as my peers who took 1 unit.
Okay.
It's a little bit different if you do 1 unit because of you have to have a resume, you have to go to a workshop and all these things based on how many units you take. So if you take, I'm in the grandfathered old program from 2011, so I had 50 hours for 1 unit, so I had to do 4 of those. But there are requirements your resume needs to be up to date. You need to join a professional association and some other things that they'll go up. The more you'll need to do more things based on how many units you take.
And that's all in the syllabus you got.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot that because I did all 3 in one chunk.
Being while you were abroad and being out of state, how do you, 1, take the class over the summer, and 2, did you take additional I think it's research methods that you take over the summer? So were you able to do both, or how did that happen?
Okay, so when I did online, so there's an online fieldwork, and I think that, did we meet in person? We met in person once or something like that, but I think that you could also Skype in. We did Adobe Connect for that, which is where you can have a ton of people. Were you in that one?
Yeah, I was online.
Yeah, we were all it was looking at, what is that?
It's
the
Brady
Bunch.
Bunch.
Yeah.
All your faces are on the screen.
Research Methods is an online class. I didn't ever take, I was actually deployed when they had research methods, and I tried to do it online because when you're deployed, you can also get your tuition assistance if you're a USC employee, if anybody ever does that. Yeah, but I couldn't take the class because I didn't have a reliable internet. But
I did research methods and fieldwork online when I was in Indiana, and it was totally doable. The time difference, I told my internship before I came there, I was like, oh, every Wednesday evening I'm going to be I don't remember what evening it was, but I told them I'm going to be in class like this chunk of time, which ended up being fine, but my supervisor said like, oh, if we have a camp checking in at that time, we'll make sure we take that off of you. And they were really, they understood that I was a student first, and yeah.
Well, I'll just say that I attended, because of my full-time working, I did one online fieldwork class and one in-person fieldwork class. I found that the online one was really discombobulated just because of the nature of having a big group meeting online. There was a part where we had to break off and do group discussions, but we were like online, so like it took us a long time to figure out, oh, we should conference call each other. It was confusing. And I took research methods in person and had a great experience with Dr. Samkian. If you get the opportunity to take Dr. Samkian for research methods, I highly, highly recommend it.
So what sites do you find these like listed besides ACUHO-I? What other places inside higher education?
If you're looking for like orientation, NODA is one, and they have listings for summer interns. But the various specific or national organizations have listings.
I think another good resource is just networking. Just practice, just try like asking people, emailing people in a few weeks. So for the next semester, just to prepare, because it could take some time crafting what you want to do instead of like, you know, you're like in the semester and like trying to find one. If you know anybody, any other administrators, see if they know anybody, and then just go from there. And I found all of mine, or a lot of my friends have found it that way. And the more you do that, it'll help you with job search too. It's like a good habit to do. Like, hey, any opportunities? Like, yeah, you know, there you go. So yeah.
Also, I do want to say that if anybody wants to work with a graduate school population in Alhambra and wants to basically design whatever you want, Alliant is very open to having unpaid interns. So, yeah, check it out. Contact me. Design your own.
More questions?
Did your fieldwork influence your future job search?
For everybody, I would say that it did, because I was like, oh, this is pretty cool working internationally. I think I'd like to do this in the future. So also working in Kuwait, I realized, okay, well, what things are, like, admissions is totally different there, because the state and the government gives money to the school for a lot of the students, so it's not anything like it is here. And there's like understanding what needs there are in different locations, and what I mean, so there's a need for disability services in the Middle East. So like looking at that and then figuring out how I'm going to work this year to get as much experience and become a good candidate for international jobs is what kind of like had that kind of influence on me.
I think if you go out of your comfort zone, you're like, I want to check that out, see if I like it or not. That's different from, that's a good strategy to, you know, for field work. But for me, it's like I had a goal, career goal. It was just a matter of building those skills and getting there. So I had a direct impact, and it comes out when the interviewers are asking me questions. So what did you do at that place? And you're like, oh, it's, you know, like how you answer and what you did, they all kind of come together. So be mindful of that. Yeah.
Helped shape my future job search. I think so going into the internship or into fieldwork, I knew I wanted to find fieldwork in Res Ed or Res Life, which, by the way, if you go into an internship in which matches where your current assistantship is at, Tracy's going to tell you no, or she's going to tell you to try and spread your breadth of experience, which she tried to tell me. But I told her, like, Res Ed is what I want to do, and I'm sure about it. So I had to tell her, like, I want to continue and do my field work there. And he's laughing because Andy got the same thing. So in terms of, like, field of where I want to go into, what part of student affairs, no, because it's solidified that I want to stay in Res Ed, but in terms of, it was a small school and a new school, and I didn't like that, so I want to be in a much larger school, established. In terms of public versus private, it gave me another taste of public again, because I worked in a public, or I attended a public institution for undergrad. Now I'm at a private, and so now I'm like, ooh, don't know which one I want to do. Still navigating that, but it did give me some insight.
Yeah, for me, I thought, I came to this program because I wanted to advance in my current job. So I went into field work thinking I want to work with graduate students forever, and what fieldwork really helped me realize was that I think actually it was the fieldwork in conjunction with research methods. Like, I really want to go into an area of research, like institutional planning, institutional research, and the summer, the fieldwork with the research methods together really helped me figure that out. And now I feel that I'm not just tied to graduate students. I would feel good working with undergraduate schools in research and assessment.
All right, well, thank you so much again. So we are nearing the end of our time today, but I wanted to give all of our panelists a quick, maybe brief 30 seconds, some closing remarks you want to give to all of our students here today. Any lasting tips?
I didn't know you were gonna say that. Like I said, just be intentional and think about what experience you want to get out of it. You have 2 years to build yourself up to make yourself a strong candidate. So work on what you need to get done, and just be really intentional about it.
I'm with you when I say this. It's really easy to I just want to get it over with. Let's just get over with 3 units. But after the 3 units, when you graduate, you're probably going to regret it, because it's such a good opportunity to build your resume again, build your skills. This is all going to come in handy when you job search.
I would say have fun where you are. I got to take advantage of the location I was at and got to go to Kentucky and Illinois and Tennessee. So take advantage of where you go, and also network with the administrators and people that you work with there at the institution.
And I would say don't worry about it. It'll be fine. You'll find a place and you'll do the class, and Tracy is really, really helpful, and it'll be great.
Well, thank you so much for coming today and dedicating an hour of your time with us. Let's give our panelists a round of applause. Let's give a round of applause too for coordinating the if you have any additional questions or concerns about fieldwork, feel free to let us know. And thank you for coming today.
Then are there any general announcements on PASA Network?
Yes. Well, not necessarily PASA Network directly, but 2 things. So the first thing, with Western Regional Careers and Student Affairs, they finally posted up the program description so you can see what workshops are going on with which sessions. So that's the first one. And then can I get a drum roll for this next one? So we finally have an academic advisor. This new person is actually a PASA alum, PASA 2013. She currently works at Dormside Advising, and she'll be starting next Thursday. Her name's Erica Wasserman. So she has a lot of great things to share with all of you, especially with the job search. So definitely hit her up when she starts next Thursday. Also know that she's advising EC, MFT, and 2 of the online programs.
And then last announcement, PASA Network tailgate, alumni tailgate, is going to be this Saturday. It starts at 11 o'clock. If you plan on attending, please RSVP on the Facebook event group, because we're going to be having name tags so you all can mingle with the alumni.
A reminder, we're about just under a month into the Anything is Possible Mentor Challenge. For those of you who are participating, thank you so much. For those of you who have yet to hop on board, I see many players in this room. So don't forget, take your photos, submit them to me, and fight on.
All right.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you.